Welcome to the Developing Dads podcast for episode number 26. And for those who are watching on the YouTubes, Gordon politely said that it looked like a bag of shit, which was a nice introduction.
It's the only way a brother should greet him.
My hair's a mess as well.
It should basically just be some sort of stern talking to where you're just like, look, you look absolutely horrendous.
And I am 30 minutes late to the podcast because I was going for a run, which so delightful. I kept on running and didn't want to get back. So 8 miles over a couple of hills near me, which is nice.
Very good, Neil. It seems very civilized.
Anyway, in this podcast, we're going to do birthing stories part 2. So part 1, we discussed my first birth and how the kind of dad perspective, and Gordon discussed his one, and I think he's going to add a bit more stuff to it. And I'm going to talk about my twins. Twins was a different ballgame altogether, but let's start off with the usual shenanigans. How's your week been, Gordon? This is we're recording this on a Friday evening, so full week. How's it been?
How's my week been? It's been all right. It's good. It was a 3-day week because obviously there was Thursday, Friday, Jubilee. The Queen's 70 years of reigning over us. Not that she has any power whatsoever, basically. But she's been in 70 days, so we got a 4-day weekend. I'm trying to think of what we got up to. We've kind of hit that month-long vlog thing that we've been doing. So we've released, over 20 episodes, 21 episodes or something. So we're doing it Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. So that feels pretty good. And we're probably going to do a little kind of like debriefing and just going to be like, how did it go? Are we going to continue it? Which we probably will. How do we refine it? How do we make it better? How do we make it different? Like all those kind of things. But it's kind of like one of those aspects of just get going. Just pick up the camera, start filming it, and we'll just work it out as we go. Because that, to me, certainly with something like this, it's a slightly better way to do things, rather than sort of wait till we got branding, and then if we've got some music, and then even if we had a full-time editor yet, and like all those things, just pick up the damn thing, get it going. And it's gone well. I think it has. It's certainly grown the second channel well. I think it's had an extra 10,000 subscribers in the 28-day period or whatever else we've been doing the daily vlog. So that's good growth. Over 20% nearly, 15% increase in subscribers. So that's pretty solid. What else have we been doing? We had our bifold doors fitted. I mean, that is a Developing Dads podcast thing to talk about, right? In the office, I'm chatting about my bifold doors getting fitted, and everyone's just like, God, that's such a dad thing to talk about. And it is, because it's fabulous. It's one of those nice things in life. And then I saw it. I went in, had a look, and then it's 3 big panels, and they're about, I don't know, how tall is Isla? 4 foot? 3 foot?
Yeah, 4 foot.
So they're about as wide as Isla is tall, and they're about 6.5, 7 foot tall, and there's 3 of them, so it's like really open plan. You probably saw it on my Instagram, Neil. I put it up. I was very excited about that. And that was definitely one of the top 5 or 6 things cost-wise that I've ever purchased, so that was delightful. So the house is kind of steaming rolling ahead. We should be finished in 2 weeks' time in terms of like the skeleton, but there are some delays and things that are kicking in, which is kind of, a bit crap, but it is what it is. But either way, it's starting to actually come together as something. The garden still looks like an absolute bomb site, but that's just the way it goes when you're building something in it. And that's kind of been it. We went a bit shopping the week previous. We did a bit of getting a couple of shirts and things because I got fatter and I need to fit into a shirt of some kind when I've got weddings coming up. And talking of weddings, I'm filming one tomorrow, which is it's my first. I think it's my first ever actually paid wedding. I think I've been paid before, but this is maybe like proper paid, I guess. And that seems pretty cool. And even cooler is it's at Hedzer House where I got married.
Wow. Do you know the couple, or is it just a random friend of a friend?
Again, a funny way of how things work. He used to be an online client like 8-9 years ago.
Wow.
How mad is that? Yeah, how mad is that? So I've got to film. So I'm very stressed about filming a wedding because it's, you can't just ask them to do it again, right?
Yeah. There's no take 2.
So I've got to sort that out. So I've got a whole plethora of cameras and things, and yeah, it's just a little bit stressful, but It is what it is, and I definitely think that I should have charged double. But it's just the way it goes. But I think the next time someone asks me to do a wedding, I'm definitely going to charge them double, just because of the stress that I'm currently feeling of going to do this is alone worth that. So I guess that's that. And then we've got a team retreat next week. We're going to be in Wales for 4 days. So from Sunday afternoon, we drive to Wales on this, team retreat, I guess. So it's kind of a bit of a time off, but get working. I don't really understand exactly what we're supposed to be doing, but we're supposed to be working on like our own projects or something. So I've got some stuff that I can get on with that's for myself. But then I've also got to do the daily vlog. So that'll be interesting. Keep that going. But I don't know what the internet's going to be like, so that'll be interesting. And I guess that's my week, really, if I'm honest. Yeah. How's yours?
Nice. Probably not as packed as yours. You managed to fill a lot of time with that. But what did I get up to in the 3 days? Work was standard. Went into the office, met up with a friend for a few beers and some food. Hadn't seen him in ages. He's now a senior consultant at Deloitte and he's travelling around all over the world. So, don't get to see him as much as I would like, but it was nice to chat to him. Work's all right. Same old. Trying to hire. And it's, I think you brought this up a couple of podcasts ago. It's really hard to hire good people, or it's really hard to find good people.
Oh, it's a horrific deal. I mean, I had this person who I sent them a task to complete. Bearing in mind, a few people have come back and said they won't work for free.
Wow.
But I'm like, you'll interview for free. Not work. This is part of the interview. Anyway, they came back and their first email back when I sent them the sort of trial task was, "What company is this?" Like, that's a good start. So then I just sent them the rejection letter, just saying, "Nah, no, we don't know who this is." It's literally in the title. Like, it's literally in the title of the email. And then the email back again, going, "You sent me all this footage and you want me to do a task. Do you still want me to do it? What company is this?" I'm like, Are you on another planet, son?
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much detail because my community is quite small, but I've had a few interesting interviews, and it's just it's an interesting time. Days off, so it was Rebecca's birthday yesterday. We decided to go into Edinburgh, do a bit of shopping, get some nice lunch. And then
just Rebecca, the two of you, or did you have the kids in tow?
No, just the two of us.
What a treat!
It's nice. The kids were in school, and then Rebecca's parents came down, and we had a bit of a picnicky type thing with drinks at a local beach for the evening. It was nice sunshine. Kids loved it, and my in-laws have taken the kids away for 4 days.
4 days.
So they're away back up to Aberdeenshire, and with all three kids. And Rebecca's got a bit of work to do. She's got a few stalls and stuff for the bakery, but it's a chilled weekend until Monday.
4 days. 4 days. Your kids, all three of them.
All three of them.
Why are you not naked right now, just walking around the house?
So it's good. Plans for the weekend. So tomorrow we're doing a bit more shopping for Rebecca's birthday because she didn't get stuff she wanted on Thursday. And then Sunday we're going to climb some mountains because that's what I enjoy doing. So
just the two of you, or with Rebecca?
Just me and Rebecca are going to climb some mountains.
How ruddy romantic! Are you going to take a wee vegan bakery with you?
Maybe. And on that subject, they had a big milestone today. Their busiest ever day.
Wow!
Where they sold out of absolutely everything, queues out the door, and they're not really sure what caused it. Obviously, it's the Jubilee holidays; people are off, but they've had other public holidays. So yeah,
that's a good thing to try and work out, though. If I'm honest, I know it's not easy to do that, but it's got to be something, because then there's something you could perhaps replicate, right? Something you can replicate. Maybe you've been put on some sort of forum board, or it's been in a newspaper article, or I don't know. Maybe the Developing Dads podcast has driven so many people to the vegan bakery that here we are.
Yeah, but it was a nice news.
Nice. So, that's very good. Anything else you've been up to, or is that it? You're just going to be just bathing around the house naked and walking up mountains all weekend because you've got no kids?
Yeah, I think that's just spending some quality time. And I can go for a run after my dinner and not care. No guilt. Rebecca's out tonight with a few friends, so it's just me.
She's out of a lash. Mum's out of a lash.
Not quite, but me, myself, and I.
So are you gonna have to go and pick her up?
No. She's she'll make her own way home. I'll be going to bed probably after this podcast because I'm tired.
What a developing dad you are.
Dad life. I don't even have a beer. There's beer in the fridge, but I can't be arsed with a beer after a run.
Yeah. Oh well, Neil. I mean, we can get into this the second part of our birth stories from a dad's perspective, which I quite enjoyed the first one, and we kind of left it. We didn't really talk too much about your other experience because you've had 2 birth stories. I've just had 1, so I did think of things to try and expand on what I was talking about in the previous episode. Whether I'm repeating myself, I have no idea, but hopefully I'm not. But Neil's definitely got some fresh things to talk about when it comes to the second round of birthing stories that he went through. So I guess, what...
I'll kick off if you want.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you a question, but it doesn't,
Well, I'll go down the story time first, and then we can delve into questions. So the second birth, and for those that are probably not new but might be new, is twins. So twins obviously come with a plethora of different things, and shockingly, the first thing I didn't realise was there'd be, so think of like a normal birth, you've got loads of different like consultants and like pediatricians and some students. Times that by 2, it's just like one of each for each baby. So the room's packed. It's a bit of a bigger labour room, I think, but let's rewind a bit more. Lewis, we found out, I think week 19, week 20, Lewis had cysts in his lung. So like little, cysts in his lung, which was a bit terrifying. But we got closely monitored. So leading up to when Rebecca was induced, we got a scan every week. So every week we had to go into hospital. Every week we got a scan to check the babies, and just to monitor the size of the cysts, how they're progressing, how he's breathing, all that good stuff, or how the lungs are progressing and growing. And when it came to the kind of the birth, they had an emergency team outside in the door because they expected that when Lewis was born, they had to basically take him for an operation to either remove the cysts or open up his lungs or, just intervene somehow, because they didn't think he would come out screaming like a normal baby does. So in the birthing suite, there was me and my wife, and but strangely or not strangely, I was okay with this, but other dads might not be. My mother-in-law was there as well. Which was, I mean, I was okay with it. She obviously asked my permission, and I went with it. And we got some pretty incredible, a bit gory, but pretty incredible photos. Like
gory?
I mean, we've got the Simba moment of both babies. So like, there's a midwife holding the baby as soon as it came out with the yelling face. And Ben, I'm not going to say who came out first, because apparently it can act as quite a bit of a rivalry who's older, and you should tell them, or I want to tell them when they're married, when I'm doing their speech.
I mean, it's not exactly a rivalry for us. I definitely came out first, so that's a given.
But I think there's about 45 minutes, maybe just under 45 minutes between them.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's...
They don't just come out. What did you expect it to be?
Just fucking dumb out.
No, it's a whole like, one comes out and then I cuddle it, and then she's got to start pushing again.
Oh, like, wow.
Yeah.
That's like running a marathon, and then your mate's like, we're doing another one just now. We're ready to start. We'll probably have to start again in about 2 minutes. You'll be all right with that?
Yeah, so 45 minutes.
Did Rebecca have an epidural? She
did. Aye,
good. That's a bit rough, isn't it?
I think she needed it. But yeah, she did an phenomenal job. And
well, there wasn't really much choice in the matter, was there? But I'm kind of thinking it's a bit rough to have her doing 45 minutes after doing God knows how many hours of labour.
One of the pluses with twin births is you kind of feel useless, especially when they're pushing. In the start, when they're pushing, you can console them, you can do your thing, you can try and rub their hands or their head or just give them a cuddle. But when the first one came out, I obviously had a baby to cuddle and look after, and like skin to skin, and that kind of first moments. And that did you
have your shirt off in the labour room? Did you? Did you? You were just swanning around with your nips out.
Yeah. And yeah,
did someone say, right, the moment's coming, you'll get your shirt off? Or did you just voluntarily just start stripping off?
I think given it was my second, I knew the vibe. I knew it was like skin to skin was important. But
so no one actually told you to take your shirt off. You're just in the labour room just with your shirt off.
Why is that so?
I mean, it's not like skin to skin is obviously like it's a thing that happens. But I'm just curious. Like I would have felt a little bit awkward just stripping off and just being like, yeah, let's do this, without really anyone sort of prompting me.
Yeah, I can't remember. But the point I'm getting at is the first if it was one baby, Rebecca or the mother would be holding the baby for, I don't know, say 30 minutes, and you got to wait for your turn. But since Rebecca's got to start pushing again, I was like the first one. So I'm not going to name names because you'll figure out who's first. But I got to hold the child the longest and like had that bonding before anybody else, kind of, which was pretty special. And then the second one came out, and without giving it away, they both screamed and they both kind of filled their lungs with oxygen as they should, and Lewis did not have to get taken away. So the emergency team was outside and disbanded. But with a twin birth, you've got, 2 consultants, 2 midwives. I think we had 2 student people, 2 paediatricians, me, my wife, and Julia. So the room was just mad. But it was a wild time having 2 babies.
That is pretty wild. And I've got a wonderful picture of you, the only one with your shirt off. There's only it's about 12 people in the room, and you're just stood there with your shirt off.
Getting that skin. Well, Rebecca's pretty naked too.
Yeah, but I mean, she's naked down at the bottom, not at the top. Oh, brilliant, Neil! I enjoyed that. So I didn't take my shirt off. That's definitely a birth stories from a dad's perspective. I was very aware of it, but then I guess I just didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't take my shirt off and start like doing the skin to skin thing. I wasn't really. I don't know. I just did. I know of it, and there's definitely that sort of stuff. And I think Laura might have mentioned it or something, but she did it straight away, and I was all right with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with Isla I did as well, but I was prompt to. So I think the midwife actually was like, "Oh, do you want to take your top off?"
Wow, what a conversation! I know the midwives can be a bit older and a bit kind of cougar-esque sometimes, but then she's like, "Oh, here's a young man, get his shirt off, lovely."
Yeah,
that's funny.
But yeah,
there must have been kind of like an element of. Well, actually, what I was going to suggest was it's all about this emotional stuff that when they come out, like you've been presented these babies, but there's kind of this odd sense of like silence when they come out. There's all this drama and there's all these people and everyone's rushing around and doing all this kind of stuff and blah 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 blah, and it's just mad. It's just like everyone's coming to this crescendo.
Yeah.
But then the baby comes out. I know Olivia did. She screamed, but then she just went dead silent. She went dead quiet. Just sat on Laura's chest, just looked at us both. We're just looking up, really, really quiet.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm still sure there was commotion going on. Like, obviously they were trying to like sort something out, or blood was getting lost, or whatever the hell was going on. But there's just this weird serenity that suddenly like hits you, almost like as if you're kind of on a lake somewhere, and there's just kind of a bit of a mist, and the sun is rising or something. Like, it's a weird kind of like emotional thing. But you're just. So did you like? How did that happen? Having 2, because obviously the ones come out and you're like, oh, this is an amazing moment. This is incredible. You're just both there. It's just you're in it. It's like silence is the key, stoic aspect, Ryan Holiday thing. Yeah. And then suddenly it's like, hold on a minute. You've got another one coming. Sort yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had to look after the first one that came out, so I was a bit hands off, and that's where Julia came in and obviously helped Rebecca through the second one. And I don't know if we didn't have that mother-in-law kind of around, I think it would have been a bit different for Rebecca. I think maybe she would have struggled a bit more or something like that. Because 45 minutes is a long time. If you've got to go through that again for 45 minutes, I kind of held the first one 45 minutes, and it worked out great. And I think that there might have been, I can't remember if the first one got fed or tried to feed in between them. I can't remember, but. Yeah, I definitely remember that kind of stillness of I've got one of them in my hands, and he's really healthy. He seems fine, and yeah, we're just looking at each other, and they've probably got some pretty cool photos
Nice.
of it.
Yeah, you have got some pretty cool photos. And I think one of my questions would be, and this is one that I don't know if blokes talk about much, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. Is it, for either Isla or the boys coming out? Did you have a look downstairs?
No, no,
Not even a peek.
no,
Oh, so you're there with your shirt off, and you didn't have a look.
no.
Why didn't you have a look?
Don't know. It just didn't cross my mind. Just to make sure they're the boy or the girl, boy or girl.
No. I'm literally looking downstairs where the baby's coming out.
Oh, I thought you meant like to suss it out if it was a boy or a girl. Yeah, I did. I saw the head. I was looking down.
Wow. How did you feel about Did Rebecca not mind you having a wee peek? How did that conversation go down, or were you forced into it from the midwife?
No, I think she was fine. But I mean, I think episode 1, I kind of told you, or episode 2, our biggest fears. One of the biggest fears was me getting a needle put in my mouth by a dentist, and I fainted. But I don't like gore. So, but during all this commotion and all the blood and gore, I was fine. And yeah, when you see like the hair or the top of the head, it's a bit weird.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's a human right in there.
Right in there, and it's forcing its way out. Like that head is coming out.
There's 2.
I was kind of forced into it a little bit. The midwife, she was a little bit older, an older midwife. I think she'd retired during the whole COVID thing, and then she came back for the whole, like, just looking after everything and trying to sort it all out. And she was like, "Come on in, have a look. You know, it's your birth of your child. Come on, get down there." And I was like,
Wow.
"All right, I'll have a look." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a baby coming out there."
Yeah.
I don't know how Laura felt about that, because she was kind of like, "I don't want you going anywhere near down there." And I was like, "Nah, it's all right." And I remember David, Laura's dad, my father-in-law, he was saying it's like watching your favourite pub burn down.
Wow, that's a nice.
But it was fine. It was just it's like one of those things where, I mean, if you're only going to have like 1 or 2 kids, then you're only going to get one chance to do that, really. Like, you're not going to just walk into a maternity hospital and just go, "By the way, I've never seen a baby coming out of a jazzle, so can I have a wee peek?"
Yeah,
Are you?
yeah.
Let's be honest.
Did you cry? Was there any tears shed?
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of tears. I think Laura, we do quite a lot of pictures on our phone. It's also one of those weird moments where you're like, do you just stay in the moment, or do you take pictures of your phone? Or you not? Do you film it? Are you allowed to film it? What are you allowed to do? Can you do things? So I filmed her coming out. Like, as soon as she came out, I was holding my phone, like, just pointing it and paying attention to her coming out. And then Laura was really keen to capture some bits, because we've got so much of our life. Oh, not so much of our life, quite a lot of our life together captured on some sort of video or a photograph or whatever else. And it's amazing that you have that, because A, you forget moments. They also become slightly blurred in your head. And it's nice to have something that was actually the thing, I guess.
Yeah, I get that.
And that was really nice. So we had a lot of those. And I remember, you know, back to your point about me crying, I definitely was sat there in the big chair that they have next to the bed, where obviously your wife is. And I was just there, just holding Olivia, just kind of like, I don't know. I must have been really tired, and I was just emotional, and just, there's a whole rigmarole of things going on, because I think during that moment, it was just kind of like there was a sense of relief as well. You know, Laura wasn't suffering anymore. Well, not as much as she certainly was. That the whole thing was over now, that she was healthy, because she had a heart thing going on that we weren't sure if it was going to be okay or not okay, or if there was anything we needed to discuss. So it was just all like a sense of relief, a sense of happiness. You know, it was just, it's pretty sick. It makes me feel a little bit emotional just thinking about it.
Yeah, like, I can't remember if I shed a tear or not, but there was definitely that, like, tugging on your heartstrings moment of, wow, you just produced, for me, 2 more humans, and they're both healthy. And especially, as you mentioned, like, through any kind of pregnancy, there's normally some kind of worries. The health is sometimes not always there, and yeah, when you get them out and they're crying and they're like looking at you, you're like, wow, they seem pretty healthy, and it's got 5 toes, 5 fingers.
Was it? And you can be honest with this. It's not unfair, but first, they always say that first love is the deepest. Now, I'm not suggesting that you don't love your children equally, but you had a sense of like you knew what was going to happen to a certain degree in terms of what birth was going to happen and how it was going to go along, and there's all that kind of you're walking the path already treaded when you had the with the boys. So were you kind of just like going through a process that you'd already experienced to a certain extent, so it perhaps wasn't as shocking emotionally? It was a little bit more pragmatic, but at the same time, it's obviously still an emotional moment, but it's... Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, you're prepared for it more mentally and I guess physically as well. Like, you know it's going to be a tough few days, and your mind can kind of get around that. And yeah, I kind of struggle looking back as far back as when I was born, because it was 7.5 years ago, which is mad to think she's nearly 8 years old. But yeah, there's definitely an element of I'm more prepared and I can handle this a bit better. I was older, I was probably more mature. We're in a bigger, better hospital, which I think probably helped as well. So there's Edinburgh had a new maternity ward just built a year before we got in. Everything was brand spanking new. Everything was shiny. Felt really nice and just clean. Aberdeen Hospital, I think there's a new one now, maternity ward, but there wasn't when we were there, and that was a bit rough around the edges, a bit old, a bit needed some TLC. So there's that element as well where you feel like you're in a better place.
I can't imagine what it must be like for, say, our dad or our father-in-laws, or then even our grandparents or the grandparents that came before us. Like I remember speaking to Laura's granddad, and during his time, men weren't allowed in the labour ward.
Wow.
In the 1950s, 1960s, men weren't allowed in there. You had to stand outside and wait.
Poor women.
But how terrible is that?
I know.
We don't remark on that in the news, do we? We don't talk about the inequality in what men experienced overall from when it came to like maternity care and being present for their children. It was kind of just a done thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But then I'm glad it's different now. But again, it's just all that progressive aspect of things, I guess. And I felt very lucky that we both had children in the time that we have had children, because, well, it's the most we know about childbirth. It's probably the safest it's ever been in human history. Even with these complications, they can be picked up super early and potentially treated, or certainly looked out for before they're born. So my experience overall was I don't know how old our maternity ward was, but it was very like set up, ready to go. But what I did feel like was with Laura, she had like this kind of like romantic expectation of childbirth. There's I don't know what Instagram's like, but there's the news and things. Like I remember, is it Kate and Will, the royals?
Oh yeah.
She comes out of the maternity hospital, probably under pressure, obviously from the press and the general public and all that kind of stuff.
Less than a day later or something.
It's like glowing, beautiful hair, nice dress, like just looking absolutely fabulous. And I guess, I think Laura maybe experienced some of that type of pressure where I expect it to be a really nice place to go and give birth. There's flowers in the corner and everyone's happy, but we were kind of just coming out the end, I guess, of like the whole pandemic aspect of things and what the hell was going on with that. So the room that we went into was not any of that. There were no flowers in the corner. It's very clinical. It smelt like it had been cleaned. It's kind of quite it's a hospital environment, I guess. And I don't know, did you experience that with that type of, the two experiences you had? Did you walk in and think, oh, this is a little bit clinical, this is like a dentist surgery, rather than being something that's kind of soft and enjoyable and calming and whatever else?
We had, again, different times with COVID and stuff, but we actually, there was what do you call them? Things that make rooms smell nice. Like a
air freshener?
No, like a humidifier thing that like pumps out oils.
Ooh.
So yeah, you could choose your own oils to put in and make it smell nice. And there's also a Bluetooth speaker. So if you want to hook up with their phones, we could play music. So there's a kind of a bit of a homely touch to it. I can't remember ever thinking, yeah, wow, it's overly clinical. Yeah, we got.
That's very fancy. I was not getting any of that.
But yeah, again, it was the COVID ban and all that. Well,
Were
thing
Go on.
we had to jump through hoops with is, so Julia's a kind of, I wouldn't say professional photographer, but she does photography in her spare time. She sells her prints and stuff. So she had to go through some leaps and hoops and whatever you call it to basically get in with a camera. So all the staff that were part of the birth of the boys had to all sign like they're okay if they're in the background of photos, professional photos and that kind of thing. And they all agreed to it, which was really nice of them. But I remember that being a bit of a, well, if one person says no, then...
It is, but that is, I can understand that as well. It's kind of just part of...
yeah, and the midwives, actually, so there's two midwives. One delivered one baby, the other delivered the other baby. And like Julia sent them the photos of like some Simba moments. And like they absolutely loved it. Obviously, they love babies and they love midwifery stuff, and they've never ever been captured like that. So that was a really, really precious moment. That's my boys now got a place on, I don't know, their phone somewhere or printed out, which is nice.
It is. I don't think, I'm not sure Laura would probably like a photographer there. Even if it was a mother there taking pictures. So I guess it's one of those choices that you can potentially do, but. Yeah, I guess, I'm happy enough just capturing something on my phone now. I think the phones for me are good enough. And they are pretty cool. And it's kind of documentarian. And it'd be interesting to see what it'd be like. And yeah, it probably would be pretty good to have something like that. But, I think I'm happy with just having a phone, I guess.
How was the kind of aftercare supports when you're still in hospital? How did you find that?
That was one of the trickiest parts, I guess. I'm talking from a dad's perspective. We're both talking from a dad's perspective. This is not me neglecting the fact that, my wife went through all of this trauma and she's definitely the one that's, getting most of the medical attention and medical care. But I guess, what we had to, it was quite late when we'd finished. Yeah, it was late in the afternoon. And we got popped through to the, I don't know what suite they call it, the other part of the maternity ward. And again, it's going back into like it's a bit of like a war medical room where there's, 6 or 10 beds or whatever it is. You're all kind of split up by curtains. And, when you get on the train in the morning, or you get on a bus in the morning, not everyone's the most pleasant to have to be next to, right?
Yeah.
They're listening to YouTube videos out loud. They're having FaceTime conversations out loud. They're talking a bit like it's just, and that's not really what you want when you've just given birth, is it? Let's be honest. You're in pain. You're emotional. You're tired. You're exhausted. In fact, and both of us are. And I just remember it just not being that great. And all credit to all of the midwives. Unfortunately, the lady that was looking after us after Laura had given birth, she had a particular way about things that wasn't very hospitable, I guess, is probably a simple way to put it, which just made Laura feel even more uncomfortable. I could see that. It was just quite challenging. It was just all really difficult. And then you're back also, because Laura also spent 2 or 3 days, I think, before going into actual labour in the sort of labour ward or the waiting ward. And it's back to the hospital food that was there, which is honestly shocking. Absolutely terrible. And I remember getting her settled, and then the midwife sort of walking around going, right, gentlemen or partners, you have to go home, because we had to leave at 8 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to leave, so I was just kind of dragging my heels quite a lot until 9 p.m. Then I left. And leaving that evening was one of the hardest and worst things that I've ever done. It was just, it was horrible. It was just absolutely horrible. I've left my wife there. She's tired. She's exhausted. She doesn't feel happy. Doesn't feel comfortable. Understandably, my baby's there. Doesn't know what to do. My baby's there, and it was just terrible. Really, it's horrible. But what I felt was, sorry, I'm going on about it, but what I felt was really, really nice. And in fact, it was amazing, because we'd bought a house. We've literally bought a house 5-minute walk from my in-laws. All I did was just drive basically from the hospital to their house. And Laura's mum had put together some dinner for me, so I got to eat. I had a beer with her dad. Like, we just had a conversation, and they were just so supportive and so like, I needed that. I couldn't have just gone home on my own. Like, I couldn't have just gone and sat on the couch in the house and just like didn't know what to do. And for the fact that they were there, they just talked to me, just listening, just asking how everything was, and just. Yeah, and it was quite nice because then I got this sense of celebration that you want to do, but your main concern is your wife, your main concern is your baby, your main concern is about their health and their happiness, I guess, and comfort. But then you get to go. I got to go round to their house and sit and have some food, but just be like, this was amazing. But also at the same time, you're like conveying how worried you are and stuff. Yeah. So did you have to just like go home, or were you? Were you allowed to stay?
Yeah, so with Isla, I think I expressed that in the first episode, but for a quick recap, she got put into a similar situation as Laura, and to the point where, I mean, in the ward that Rebecca got put into, there's a bit of a police incident. This mum was desperate to go home, but the doctors wouldn't sign her off home, so the police got involved because she was just causing trouble and shouting and swearing. So that was really traumatic, but we finally got home after, I think, a day or two. The boys, and again, you get kind of as twins, and you get treated a bit like royalty. So we actually got our own room, which was, I don't know, pretty. Nobody in the podcast can, I don't know how you'd describe it, but I don't know, enough for a double bed, and obviously your 2 cots for the boys. We had our ensuite. We had a bed for me. So like it was completely different setup, and obviously the twins need that space as well. So there's no kind of shared ward. We had quite a quiet room, and they were in there for about 5 or 6 days. They got pretty bad jaundice, which is quite common. They were born at 30. What's a standard birth? 38 weeks.
40 weeks, I think.
40 weeks, yeah. So they were born at 31 weeks, which is pretty early. So yeah, they got jaundice, and they had to get kept in to get monitored pretty rigorously. So I slept for the first couple of nights with Rebecca and the boys. Well, when I say slept, I was there, which was nice. Like I didn't have that feeling of, oh, I'm leaving her. But then I also had the feeling of, Isla wants to see me. So I've got a daughter at home she was 3 at the time. So again, she's quite probably emotional about the whole thing. What's life going to be like with babies coming home? We knew there was twins. She knew she's going to have 2 brothers. There's part of me there that I wanted to be with her, and like. I think my parents stayed, and William and Julia was down as well, looking after Isla, and Gordon, you came down. But yeah, it was a bit of a different experience than the first one, and you get your own room, which makes a massive difference. Own bathroom, TV. It almost feels like you're in private medical.
That is pretty nice. That's probably your 5-star recommendation, isn't it? If any dads out there are having kids, try and have twins, because you get treated like royalty. But then it's all downhill after that, I guess. I think they know it. Maybe that's why they're doing it for you.
Yeah.
I maybe want to convey something as a brother whose brother had children before you, like me, basically me being an unencumbered single man, and you having your first children. I remember having a very compelling need to be up with you and the family and to see the baby on both occasions. Yeah. When Isla came, I was like, nah, cancel everything. I'm coming up. I've booked a flight. It cost me an absolute fortune on BA last minute to fly to Aberdeen. But I don't know. I felt like this unbelievable need to be there. And, hopefully I was helpful. I wasn't in the way, but it was something I needed to do. And then I remember for the twins, the flights. I don't think I could get a flight for some reason. There was something about that. I couldn't get a flight or something like that.
Well, the timing was a bit odd because we weren't sure how it could have been weeks. We were in hospital. We just didn't know.
There was really difficult. So anyway, I couldn't get a flight for some reason. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to drive. So I drove in I think it was about a 14 or 15-year-old Volkswagen Touran, which is basically a kid's people carrier car. It was obviously manual. There was no like cruise control or anything like that. And it took me 2 petrol stops to get up to Dunfermline from London. And I think I drove, the first day was 11 hours or something around that region.
Yeah, you got stuck in a traffic jam, I think.
Traffic jams and all sorts of stuff. But again, I don't know. I just felt like this compelling need to come up. So yeah, if there's any brothers or sisters even listening potentially, it's do it. Like go in as soon as they're born, as soon as you know there's crowning going on or waters are broken, get yourself in a vehicle and get yourself to the.
You're always going to remember it. You're always going to be like, I was there, and like I remember when Olivia walked through the door, your in-laws, like we were there, me, mum, dad, we'd driven down from London, and yeah, we got to see Olivia when she first came home, which is a really special moment.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember actually Dad very specifically when I brought Olivia home. I remember, you were there, Mum was there, everyone at the front, like David was there, and Dad was in his usual kind of position. He kind of hung back a little bit, but I remember him being kind of taken aback.
Yeah,
like
he got quite emotional.
More specifically, and that was kind of an interesting moment. Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about, is taking them home for the first time. We got stuck in hospital between shifts, and they couldn't sort out the paperwork and all this kind of nonsense.
It was quite late at night, I think.
Oh, it was like midnight by the time we got back.
Yeah.
But if for those who don't know, who have not had children, the primary care of that child is not necessarily passed off to you until the hospital knows that the baby is safe and healthy and ready to go, and you know what you're doing, and you've got all your stuff and blah 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 blah. So they literally have to sign you off, and the paperwork is insane. They have to just go through all of this stuff, ticking boxes, signing things, doing things. It's just, I understand why they do it, but when you want to leave, it's the longest process that doesn't have to happen, or you don't think has to happen, because you know you're a responsible human being, you've done all the things. So I remember doing that, and it was very late at night, and we finally got to take her home. And yeah, we went to, like I said before, the in-laws' house that's just 5 minutes up the road, and you were all there. And it's brilliant, isn't it? It's so nice just to show off your new thing, your little new human being off to the family. And then, turning Laura's parents, my in-laws, into grandparents for the first time, and then our parents into grandparents for the fourth time, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
One of the moments I remember really vividly is when we were taking the boys out of the hospital for the first time, and interestingly, we had to get them obviously both signed out. And I remember one being ready a few days before the other one. Can't remember which one it was, but one was super healthy and ready to go home, and the other needed a bit more lights for jaundice and stuff like that. And it was the most frustrating thing ever, because you just want to go home, and like you've got one child that's not done it yet. But anyway, when we got signed off, I remember there's a photo of Isla just standing. She's 3 years old, standing outside the hospital with 2 car seats with 2 tiny babies in them. And yeah, I don't know why, but that just it's a really special photo, because there's twins and Isla. And that was it. Was kind of a defining moment of like, that's it, we're finished. Like, touch wood. We're finished making our family any bigger.
No, after this weekend, where you've got a family, no kids to look after for the weekend, Neil?
So yeah, 3 children, and it was like that next chapter of, right, we can now move into it. And it was also exciting because we moved into a new house, and we're getting that sorted. And
I wonder what it must have been going through Isla's head.
Yeah, I know.
Was she excited? Was she not excited? Did she? Maybe I'm over egging what a 3-year-old's potential intellect is, but was she worried about mum and dad like giving her attention? Like, how's she going to cope with like 2 new things to have to do? Or maybe she just saw them as toys and was just like, yeah, they'll be gone soon.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe she was just thinking, I can feed them, I can look after them. But
so after Isla was born and after the boys were born. So Isla was being born. Did you have to go home in between, or did you stay?
I had to go home, like similar to you, but 9 o'clock-ish.
All right, so we can maybe relate on this one, because the boys, you stayed, didn't you?
Yeah, Julia did do a few nights for me, looking after Rebecca, because I was just done. But
fair. So you remember the day after Isla was born, and I remember the day after, when you go in the morning, you're there first thing. I remember, and I don't know if you can relate to this or you did, because hospital food was rubbish, and Laura was just it was awful.
Yeah.
I got her a McDonald's McMuffin.
we spent a small fortune on Marks and Spencer's. There's a Marks and Spencer's in the hospital, which is bonkers. But yeah, small fortune, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like 5 or 6 days. And you
Oh
know,
yeah, that's not cheap. Yeah,
you know how much I spent on parking. So parking's not free in the Edinburgh Hospital.
it's also not free in England. Or
I was
London,
doing it
so.
every day. It was
Wow.
£15 a day.
£15 a day.
Yeah, and they were there for like 5 or 6 days.
You spent like £100 on parking just for your kid.
And there's no compensate. You can go through if you're earn a certain amount, but if you're on benefits, you can get cheaper parking. But yeah, like if you're in long term care, I have no idea what you do.
That's insane.
Mad.
It is part. There is part of that whole birth thing aspect where I do wonder how people who are living on the breadline actually do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because not like let's step aside from the idea of all the car seat crap and the pram stuff and the clothes and all that kind of thing. But even just that birthing aspect, we had to pay for our scan pictures. You know, we had to pay, like you say, it wasn't quite as much as you, but it was maybe like £25, I think, for 5 days or whatever it was to park. Like that's a lot of money for someone, especially if they're on £500 a month or something. £25 to park the car, like that's these kind of things. That doesn't make sense to me. We've got free healthcare, but we can't park our car for free. Like what the hell is going on?
I know. And like it was because it was overnight. That was like an additional day, so it was a full 24 hours you paid for. Just madness.
That is bad. But back to my McDonald's story. I think that was one of the best things I could have done for Laura. She to have an egg McMuffin and a brownie thing or whatever it was, and then a cup of tea. She was absolutely sorted. Oh, another thing to complain about. Laura's obviously the patient. She can have a cup of tea. Me, I'm not a patient. I'm not allowed a cup of tea. How mad's that?
You had twins, Gordon. I got offered everything.
Did you? Wow. But to be fair, you do look about 10 years older than me now, so I think I'd probably go without the tea.
Nice trimmed hair I got done today.
It's very good. It's for your sexy weekend, isn't it? You've trimmed yourself up, got yourself ready, and you're about to have your fourth kid.
On that note.
On that note. Would there be any little tidbits or tips that you'd give a dad before? Maybe like 3 or 4 little tips that you might have for anyone who's either expecting or thinking about having a kid during the whole birthing thing. You know, be it, I don't know, some food or whatever else. What would you say?
If you can afford it, and would I be able to afford it if I ever have another kid? But try and go private. Because I can imagine, like, if you have one, like having twins and having multiple births, it's also obviously very stressful and everything, but you do get treated like royalty. Like midwives are all over you and you get your own room, and that's amazing. But when you have a single one, it's horrendous going into a ward of other mums that don't know what they're doing, with other babies that have no idea where they are, and there's 6 of them, and they're all in the same. It's like a prison. It's like almost like solitary confinement. So yeah, try and do private, but I don't know how much that would cost.
Well, there's a hospital in London that does private, obviously. I think it's anywhere between 10 or 12 grand a night for private. Wow. But you also get a Michelin star chef.
Nice.
Yep. Anything else?
And I don't know, just be prepared. So it could obviously go any minute. And I think the first episode we discussed on this, you didn't drink for a month or something. I wasn't quite that lenient, but yeah, just be prepared. And I think from our point of view, we had pretty straightforward, although we had the kind of the health scare stuff, we had pretty straightforward births. Like I can imagine a cesarean just adds another dynamic and another whole thing together, because the mum's got to recover. She can't really drive or walk properly for weeks. So yeah, just be prepared, I think's my sound advice. Okay.
What are my top 3 things? The first one's probably not drinking for a month before the birth, because I was just terrified that I'd be, absolutely trolleyed, and then suddenly Laura's waters break and I can't like sober myself up or take her to hospital or whatever else. And you can go a month without drinking. That was quite easy. I had some quite nice 0% alcohol beers, but they weren't quite as nice as other ones. But either way, I definitely give a tip on that, because you just don't know what's going to happen, and you can forgo a few beers for a month, I think, just to make sure you're in full mind, ready to go, not even thinking about it. One of the big ones I found was helpful for me, and again, I don't know why I have to caveat this, but Laura was obviously going through everything and finding it very difficult and not getting a break, quite frankly. But I found taking breaks was important for me because I wanted to be a strong partner, a supporting partner, really helping, really giving her my all to make sure that she could get through this. I'm not sure. I don't think I'd be happy enough to admit that I don't think I had the stamina to just do that for the whole God knows how many hours that we were going through the labour aspect of things. So I would just take myself away for 15 minutes or even just stand outside the door for 10 minutes and just kind of breathe for a little bit, maybe have a glass of water, just compile my thoughts, give myself a minute. I'd even go downstairs and have a toastie that was at the coffee van thing that was really tasty. I'd get a toastie for Laura because if she wanted one, like have a coffee. You don't have to be there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think even the advice from the midwives as well to go home, and have a good night's sleep after the birth has sort of happened, even though it was horrific for me and I hated it absolutely. But there's nothing worse than both of you being tired. One of you should go home, lie down, sleep, wait until the next morning about 9 o'clock or whatever time you can get in. There's plenty of time in between it. Have a shower, just get yourself together. And I think that break thing makes such a big difference, or it certainly made a massive difference for me in terms of just being able to support Laura with everything I had, really, to be honest, because you can't do it forever.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really solid advice. And it's probably something that you just, I don't know, something popped into my head that I didn't, obviously with twins, I got to stay with Rebecca, which is amazing, but also you don't get that kind of rest time as a dad. So I stayed with her for 2 or 3 nights. And I got to the point where I was just, obviously went through the whole labour thing, went through the lead up to it. I was an emotional wreck. And I can't remember if I had to say it or Julia, my mother-in-law, kind of stepped in and was like, look, I will stay tonight, you go home and sleep. And that was priceless. I remember coming home and hadn't been home for, 4 or 5 days by this point. I'd probably showered, but no change of clothes, and I was a bit minging. I remember just getting home, and I think, were you there? I can't remember. People were at my house. Living in my own house, living at my house. I didn't really know who was here, but I remember getting into my bed. It was probably mid-afternoon and just hitting the pillow. That was a good feeling. But yeah, I guess put your hand up. If you are struggling and maybe your child is in ICU, whatever you call it, in the kind of really sick kids bit, and you're just worn out and you can't stay overnight, you just put your hand up, and I'm sure, hopefully, you've got family around you that can support and help.
Yeah, and they're in the best place, I think is the thing. Yeah. They're in the hospital and they'll get hold of you if they need to, believe me. Everybody is rooting for dad to be there if necessary. So, you get a bloody police escort if you really, really need one, I guess.
I'd love to hear if any dads have ran red lights just because they want to make it.
I would have.
Yeah, I think I would have if time was of the essence. We were lucky enough to be there at the point. But yeah, if I was,
we didn't need an ambulance. We were kind of invited in.
Yeah,
so I don't. Yeah, so we were all good with that. It's probably a good time to close it out, Neil. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
We almost got through, Neil. We almost got through an entire podcast professionally, nailing it, making it sound good.
Spluttered.
And I just looked at Neil and I was like, you opened it, Neil. So what I'm going to do, Neil, is I'll finish it. I'll finish the professional podcast that we have as the Developing Dads.
Okay.
Another wonderful episode number 26. I did want to put a part 2 on this because it was quite popular on one of our earlier previous episodes. So if you haven't heard it already, you can go back and hear the part 1. I've absolutely no idea, actually, if repeated herself. I think we've gone over some new bits and pieces, certainly with your twins story. Absolutely. But it was a fun one. I do like hearing these discussions on birthing stories from a dad's perspective. I think it's something I didn't really hear much about, and it's been really nice to hear Neil's stories, and hopefully anyone who's listening, the 1.5 listeners, maybe 2.5 listeners at this point, have got to this end. I hope you've enjoyed it.
What that achievement? What country did you see us in the charts?
Oh, that's hilarious. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are number 130 in the Health and Fitness podcast in Slovakia.
Why health and fitness? Is that where we're targeted?
Who knows? Who knows, Neil? I mean, I'll take that. 130 in Slovakia for health and fitness. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
But anyone, yes, the 2.5 listeners that have got to the end of this podcast, do check us out, Developing Dads, on Instagram. This episode will be uploaded onto YouTube, so if you want to see our delectable, delightful faces on there, then please do check it out. And if anyone ever does have any questions, not that we get many, we should probably do a Q&A one, Neil, with our Developing Dads thing.
Yeah, we can try put out some questions. Get some.
Maybe we'll
Instagram.
do that in the number 27. We'll put one out on the Instagram and Developing Dads. We'll put one on your Instagram, and we'll put one on my Instagram and see if anyone has any questions about it. But nonetheless, we've kept you long enough. I really appreciate anyone who's listened to this point, and I hope you enjoyed this episode 26, Birth Stories from a Dad's Perspective. Hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.